Now, the former U.S. President Donald Trump's legal troubles have long made headlines, and things seem to be heating up further with the latest race for the White House. Now, Donald Trump faces a host of investigations at both the state and the federal levels on matters relating to his business and political career. Each time one of the investigation, of course, proceeds, there's another one that seems to be popping up. And Donald Trump has now said that he is the target of the Justice Department's investigation related to the riots that took place at the U.S. Capitol on the 6th of January back in 2021. The former American president has said that he's now received a letter from the prosecutors suggesting that he's likely to be criminally indicted over the 6th of January riots at the U.S. Capitol. At this moment, it is not immediately clear as to what charges Donald Trump may face, but a target letter does not always also result in an indictment. On the 6th of January in 2021, just before the Capitol attack, Donald Trump had delivered a fiery speech urging the crowd to fight like hell. And now Special Counsel Jack Smith's inquiry follows a 16-month-long investigation by the U.S. House of Representatives Committee. The panel has recommended about 4 separate charges for Donald Trump and associates in its final report. Charge 1 is of insurrection. The panel had argued that Trump had encouraged his supporters to come to Washington and cause havoc. And as the riot had gone on, he had failed to take appropriate action to end the disorder. The second charge is to do with the obstruction of a federal proceeding. Panel members believe that Donald Trump had repeatedly attempted to stop or undermine Congress's certification of the election in the weeks leading up to the Capitol riot. They also say that the former president had deliberately attempted to stop the process by instigating a mob to storm the U.S. Capitol. The third charge is about conspiracy to defraud the United States. As per the committee, Donald Trump had worked with others to impede the functioning of the U.S. government and had tried to mislead the public about the results of the 2020 elections. The fourth charge is about a conspiracy to make a false statement. The committee has claimed that Trump and his backers had planned to submit a slate of false electors in the key swing states. Now, Donald Trump also faces a number of other criminal cases that could lead to his arrest: the classified documents case, the Stormy Daniels hush money case, and the Georgia election meddling case. And despite Trump facing several investigations, this still does not seem to be affecting his popularity ratings in the race to the White House. According to the Ipsos poll, Donald Trump is dominating the U.S. Republican presidential nomination contest with 47% ratings, well above his competitor, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's trailing him at 19%. The rest of the Republican field remains well behind the two frontrunners. Vivek Ramaswamy, a former biotechnology executive, is at 9% in the poll, followed by the former Vice President Mike Pence, who's got a support of 7% of the Republican electorate. And to give us more insights in terms of how all of this is likely to play out and how this could affect Donald Trump and his run for the presidency in 2024, we're being joined by Mr. Mark Mirowitz, who is joining us from New York. Mark is a political commentator and also a professor at the State University of New York Maritime College. So thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. And let me begin by asking you this. Now, this is going to be another high-profile case that Donald Trump is presently being investigated upon. Give us a sense of how the American public is looking at this particular case where Donald Trump is being accused of instigating a mob to carry out the violence on the 6th of January in 2021.
I wanted to clarify that the target letter that's being spoken about today, which Trump received on Sunday night, does not apparently talk about insurrection or incitement. I think the reason for that is because the Supreme Court standard for that is incitement to imminent lawless action. That's going to be a tricky case. But what they have charged are the conspiracy to defraud, which you spoke about, witness tampering, and deprivation of rights under color of law, and the idea that Trump was depriving the American people of their opportunity to cast their vote. And you correctly point out that there are a number of other cases: the New York hush money case, the Florida, the classified documents case, the Georgia case is pending. In terms of the popular view of this, it really bifurcates between Democrats and Republicans. There just was a New Hampshire poll taken, I think, yesterday or the day before, which shows Trump leading DeSantis 37-23, and Pence a distant 1%, Nikki Haley 5%, Chris Christie 6%. I think that answers your question in terms of Republicans. In terms of Democrats, Democrats support Biden. Question is, what is the effect of these ongoing cases as they mount up against Trump. And I would think that ultimately it might have a cumulative effect, a little bit like the drip, drip, drip when you have a glass of water, and that final little drip just pushes all the water over the edge. And I think this is a cumulative process. Also, the problem is that we're getting close to the election and the primaries and the convention and the Republican convention in July 2024. Are you going to have all these cases pending at that time? I think that is very, very troubling and problematic, really, for the American people.
But the point that I want to talk about is the violence that took place on the 6th of January in 2021. You pointed out that it's going to be difficult for the prosecutors to, in fact, establish a direct link between Donald Trump and the violence that took place. But there has to be accountability to what happened, at the U.S. Capitol on the 6th of January in 2021. And where do you think Donald Trump's accountability lays? Because it was his supporters who stormed the U.S. Capitol that day.
I think it's an excellent question, and I think it's the #1 question for the American people in terms of this upcoming election. Accountability can be legal, and it can also be political. So to me, the legal piece is what we're seeing, what you've described so well, unfolding right now. And it is unclear that the prosecutors feel they have a strong case on the incitement and what you call the insurrection. I mean, insurrection is a tricky point. You look at the Constitution, insurrection is the Civil War, is the South seceding and rebelling against the North in the Civil War. I mean, we haven't had a case like this, so maybe they're going for an easier case. But the other part of your question is so important. It's about political accountability. Will there be political accountability, even if there is an illegal case, in terms of the storming of the Capitol and connecting the dots to directly blame Trump? Now, many Democrats will say, simple question, simple answer, Trump did that. If you ask Republicans, and particularly Trump supporters, you see the numbers in terms of the polls that they don't seem to be holding Trump politically accountable. So I think this is a tricky, tricky question and an existential, really, for the American constitutional system. What we also are not mentioning, which is really Biden's credibility and Biden's strength in the view of the American electorate. And there are a lot of questions about Biden in terms of his age and who is the serving vice president. And we have to put that in the mix as well. He did very well.
Professor Mirovitz, about Biden, the questions around his popularity and how the Democrats, of course, view Biden is something that we continue to discuss on WION. We've covered extensively on this. But today the question, of course, is about Donald Trump, who's facing a slew of legal challenges, and also, as you pointed out, the political accountability of the violence that took place on the 6th of January in 2021. But thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us and giving us that very balanced perspective in terms of how to look at the events that are unfolding. And this is a story that we'll continue to track extensively on WION.
Thank you very much.